And this is demonstrated on this picture. If you draw lines to trisect your screen, these points, these thirds, are generally speaking the place you want to put your focus, particularly if there's something out there that makes it worth looking at. But think about the rule of thirds. And I'm going to show just a few examples of that, but mostly you'll see them in many of the pictures. This is my daughter at Great Sand Dunes Park in Colorado, just feeling frisky. But again, the rule of thirds, you can see how that shows up. A picture in Greece of a monk sitting there with his dogs. And sometimes fairly simple scenes. This is a church in Iceland at the sunset, just lightening the sky a little bit.
Larry, is it just, I'm sorry, is it just me? I'm not seeing anything. I see your background.
What do you all see?
I'm seeing the screen just fine.
Oh,
I'm good.
Be a picture of a horse there.
no.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
I see your mountain background. I'm so sorry. What do I do?
Go to the upper right corner and change your view.
My view. Stop video. I'm on an iPad. Virtual.
All right.
Well, for me, it's in my upper right corner, but you can
Is it
your view.
It's not switch camera? No.
Share screen.
Switch to screen share. Oh, there,
Yeah,
I
there
see
you
it.
go.
So sorry. Thank you. I see a horse now.
Well, now you get to watch the horse. Then you see the
that's
horse a little bit longer.
Beautiful photograph. Thank you.
All right. But again, with any rule, you want to break the rule. Here's a picture where there's absolutely no point to put it off to the third. In fact, if you put it off to the third, it would seem rather strange. So again, I use the word rule, but rules are meant to be broken. Do what works for you, what you like. Another thing to keep in mind is movement. I like to get pictures that have movement. All right. Here's an example of this walkway leading in. Another example of movement. Here's a castle in Scotland, and the bridge moves into it. All right. Plus, this is kind of off at a third. Barney and Jan, you see yourselves? Right. Here's again is movement. All right. The gang is moving up the hill. So try to get that sense of movement in. A picture in the Dolomites of people moving, all right, along the trail. A picture of a bird flying. And one of the things when you do have that movement, the movement generally should be towards the center of the picture. This example here, these people are moving in. If you had them moving out of the picture, it would look a little strange. Like this. This is a sea lion in the Galapagos moving out of the picture. But what I've done actually is that's the original. And that one I think works because you've got the trail. Okay, even though he's moving out, you've got the trail. And here's another example of movement. The duck is moving out of the picture, which means it wouldn't look good. But again, the trail is part of the picture. All right. So again, there are rules, but break the rules when they work for you. One of the things that when I'm looking at my pictures, I'm always thinking, geez, what could I have done better? What could we have changed to make this better? I mean, this I like. It shows, you know, movement. It's got the rule of thirds. I wish I could get rid of this guy. Right? So, you know, I can't do anything about this, but next time if I get in this situation, I may just call out, hey, you know, Joe, can you move off to the minute? Let me take the other picture of the other. So, but always be looking at your pictures with an idea of what could be better. This is one of my favorites. It's my wife going for a walk on a snowy day. Again, we've got the movement, we've got the thirds, but what I really love is the red hat. That red hat just kind of jumps out at you, right? A photographer's friend and enemy is light. We use light all the time. And one of the problems is that the camera has to try to average the light that they're seeing. And this is a good picture in terms of framing. I did a very nice job of framing it, but notice that the house is overexposed and the greenery is underexposed because the camera is trying to average the light. There are some ways that you can get around that. this is an example of two starkly different series of lights. And one way you can get around that is if you point your camera at the point that you want, partly depress the shutter, and it will focus on that spot and at that light, and then move your camera out to take the rest of the picture. So this is one way to do that. There are times when you want to get rid of the background or the foreground. In this case, I wanted the picture darker because I didn't want to show up the things here. I wanted the focus to be on the light. So here, this is an example of typically underexposing. Another example of underexposing. All right, I really didn't want the greenery of the flowers. I wanted the beautiful sunset and the reflection in the water. Right, so you can play with your exposure. That's one of the things about a better camera, is that you can play with your exposure settings. When you're taking pictures, close-ups of flowers and things like that, it's always good if you can have a darker background, right, to make it show up. And one way to do that is, again, with you, if you have your camera, you can purposely underexpose the picture so that this lightens up and that goes darker. And here again, it's an example of the butterflies looking into the picture. All right, if the butterfly were over here, it wouldn't be as an attractive a picture. It also helps when you're taking close-ups to pay attention to your focus. So here's the focus is on the flowers with the background all blurred out. So your focus is on the flowers, and you can set your aperture to do this.
Larry, this is
Yeah.
this is Susan. I'm your chat moderator.
Yes, go ahead.
We have a question in chat. Is there a way to play with exposure on an iPhone?
Somebody else will have to answer that because I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. Examples of, again, taking pictures of flower, making sure the background is dark. All right, so the focus is on the flower. You can use light in different ways. This is a picture of Joe, one of my hiking buddies, and the picture was taken to show Joe, all right, although with a beautiful background. This picture was of Joe, but taken for a very different purpose. It wasn't to show Joe as a person, but as a silhouette, all right? And so again, by how you do your lighting, all right, you can affect what the picture is going to be like and what you're after. Lighting is tricky, and this is one thing you mentioned that iPhone, Susan. This is one area where the, what is it, the HDR, I forget this, the initials on an iPhone gives you better pictures. This is a picture I took with my camera, and that's a picture I took with my iPhone at the same time, because the iPhone does a much better job of straightening that out. You can see